All right, so quick recap. We have our stuff, start, move, and shoot. All right, so for our level here, let's grab our player tank and let's make our fire rate 0 just because we're going to be scripting our bullet. And let's go ahead in our scripts folder and create an SI_bullet script. All right, I have my script. Let's go ahead and open it up. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, because we've kind of written something similar with our Pong game, is I'm going to create 3 variables. And one is the speed of the bullet, and then how long I'd like my bullet to stay on the screen after it's spawned. And then we're going to add some physics to our bullet and make it shoot. Now, in our start method here, I'm just going to do RB. And I'm going to make this public so you could see, just as a reminder, that the following line adds, so if we get our component, it'll automatically populate the rigid body variable with our rigid body. So go ahead and type this out. And the next thing I'm going to do is, remember our tank, when we left click our button, that's what's actually spawning our bullet. We're just going to do a quick destroy. And what we're going to be destroying is this game object. So whatever game object is attached to the script, and this time to live is going to be how long it appears on the screen, and that's public. So I'm going to save this script, and let's return to Unity, and I'll show you essentially how this all works. And we're going to attach this to our bullet script, or bullet prefab. All right, remember in our prefabs folder, we created this bullet here. Well, what I'm going to do is just grab this SI bullet script and just drop it on top of here. Now, the time to live is 5 and the speed is 10, and we don't have a rigid body in there because it's public. So I'm going to add a component, which is rigid body. And watch what happens when I press play. Well, actually nothing because it's not in our scene. But if I grab my bullet, just so you could see it, and I drop it in my scene, watch this rigid body variable here. You could see it automatically populated it with what's in here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. The other thing is, I don't know if you noticed, actually let me undo that for a second. Watch how the bullet falls in the scene. I want my bullet to have physics, but I don't want it to have gravity. So in my bullet here, I'm going to take my use gravity, I'm going to uncheck that. So let's press play. Let's start our game. And now when I click this, you could see it appears. But we haven't added the code yet that adds force, but you could see because they're bumping into each other. And you can also see after 5 seconds that they sort of disappear. You can increase the time of that by selecting your bullet in here and just adjusting time to live and also the speed. So our instantiation is working, our bullet is working. Now let's go ahead and, because we're using physics here, we want to use instead of update, fixed update, but let's go ahead and add the code that'll allow us to fire the bullet forward. So on our update method here, I'm just going to rename it fixed. And it's still gray because I haven't done anything with it. And then let's just add an if statement here. I have a very touchy gaming keyboard, so that's why whenever I'm typing, it sort of flips out a little bit. Let me go ahead and pause the video and type this out. All right, so if our rigid body is not null, that means if we have a rigid body on our object, then we're going to move the position. This is a method that exists within the rigid body class. We're going to move its current position plus this little multiplication we have here. So transform.up is the y-axis. So whatever our current y-axis is, its position in the world, which is probably going to be 0 for the thing. Then we're going to multiply, well, not really 0, but some smaller value based on its position in the world as it spawned, times the speed. This is how fast we want our bullet to go. And then what normalizes the speed is, remember we did time.delta time? Well, this is fixed delta time, which deals mostly with, this is good for anything that has physics attached, like a rigid body. I'd like to add one more thing, but we're gonna jump back into Unity. I'm gonna show you that this works with the bullet, but I wanna add where it blows up the other tank. So let's save this and then return to Unity. All right, so here we are back in Unity. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit start. And as I move this, you could see now we're shooting, but because our enemy tank, it doesn't know that it's there. It just knows that, I mean, it's aware, the bullet is aware that it's there as a collision object. It just doesn't know. Essentially, one, the bullet should destroy itself, and it should probably destroy our enemy, right? So let's turn this on. So with our enemy tank selected, let's go ahead and add another component, and we're just going to add a box. And I'm going to hit F to focus on this. And I'm just going to make this box a little bit in front of our tank. So something like this, just slightly, so that when the bullet enters it, it blows it up. I also want to make sure is trigger is on, and I want to give this a tag. And that tag that I'm going to enter is enemy. And I'm going to save it. So just remember your casing here, E-N-E-M-Y, and it's a capital E. And then make sure you go back and you, because it doesn't automatically tag it, and you add this enemy tag here. So I'm going to save this, make sure they're on the same axis. And let's go ahead and write that script where if it enters this trigger here, we're going to make the bullet disappear as well as our enemy object. All right, so let's see if we can, I know last time I struggled with this a little bit. So on trigger, enter. So I'm just going to hit enter on this first one. There we go, finally, it populated for us. And I'm going to do if, tab, tab, if the other object dot compare tag, going a little different on this one, is enemy. So if the other object that we're bumping into is the enemy, we're going to destroy this game object, which is the, actually, let's go ahead and destroy the tank first. So I'm going to paste this one more time. I'm going to do destroy. And if you remember from the other tutorials, the other object is whatever this is bumping into, dot game object. So we're going to destroy the other game object, and then we're going to, like this destroys, this object, like the bullet, and then enemy. So we could, I mean, if it helps, you could do this dot game object. If it makes it clear, it'll destroy that, whatever this is. It's more explicit, this game object. All right, so let's pause this and see if this works. All right, let's press play here. Start, boom. There we go, we have it. And what's cool about this is, when we go to script this, let's go ahead and make sure that our pivot is local and center. So I'm going to move this here. We're going to use something called object pooling, which is a new concept, to make these appear, and maybe we'll shrink them down a little bit. But now, when we press play, we can go through and shoot individual ones. And you could play with the player's reload time. So let's say it's 1. Really give them some anxiety. So like I'm mashing the button down. It's like, they're coming, So that's it for this tutorial. In the next one, we're going to tackle the enemy movement and spawning and all that good stuff.